Good morning, and thank you for that introduction. My name is Richard Pye, and I work for Summit Therapeutics, its Director of Corporate Communications. And today I'm going to talk about our two drug programs which have the potential to transform the lives of patients suffering with Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy and C. diff infection. Before I go on, we are a publicly listed company both here on the AIM exchange but also now on Nasdaq, so just draw your attention to our legal disclaimer as well as our Securities and Exchange Commission filings in the US regarding forward-looking statements. So as a company, we are focused on treating all boys with the fatal muscle wasting disease Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy using our pioneering Utrophin modulation technology. This is an area where we've got a clear leadership position. We're also focused on developing our selective antibiotic for the treatment of C. difficile infections. As I just mentioned, we're a dual-listed company, and we were really pleased to complete our US Nasdaq listing in March this year. I'm now going to focus on our DMD program. This is the core focus for our research activities within the organization. And before I go into our research, I just wanted to give a little bit of background behind this condition. This is a devastating muscle wasting disorder. There's currently no effective disease-modifying therapies that will treat all the boys with this condition. Typically, they are diagnosed at around the age of 2 to 5 years of age. Their muscles will progressively fail, leaving them in wheelchairs by their teenage years, and ultimately it's the failure of their cardiovascular and respiratory systems that will lead to their death by their late 20s. It affects all the muscles in their body. It's one of these diseases that is classed as an orphan indication as well, and that has a number of benefits which we will come on to. Now, the condition itself is caused by different genetic faults in the gene that encodes a protein called dystrophin. And we have dystrophin in our body. It is essential for maintaining the healthy function of our muscles. However, boys with Duchenne muscular dystrophy cannot make dystrophin, and that's what leads to their progressive failure of all their muscles. The body, though, produces a second protein called Utrophin. So when we're developing muscle fiber, Utrophin is what's present. And our approach is to try and maintain the production of this Utrophin protein and therefore substitute for the missing dystrophin. And we believe this has the potential to both slow and even potentially stop the progression of this disease. We have a significant advantage over other people working in the field. Utrophin is independent of the genetic fault, and that means we could treat all patients with this condition. And if you compare this to the other people working on disease-modifying treatments looking at dystrophin, they can only ever treat small subsets of patients because they are mutation-specific. And that's highlighted by the most common mutation only ever going to be applicable to 13% of the market. So we believe that puts us in a very strong commercial position in this field. As a company, we are developing a broad pipeline of Utrophin modulator drugs, and our lead candidate is called SMT-C1100. And we've completed preclinical work on this, and it's currently being evaluated in patient clinical trials. And indeed, we reported the first set of data on this last year, and we found some very encouraging results. Most notably, what we saw here was a reduction in some enzyme markers in the bloodstream of the boys in the study, which are typically associated with muscle damage. And this could be the first signs of activity for our product. We're now evaluating this further in a new phase 1b trial that's currently ongoing, as well as trying to improve the amount of drug that we can get into the plasma of the boys. And we expect to report data from that trial during the third quarter of this year. If that's successful, we'll then move on into phase 2 studies. Notably, we'll do an open label trial, which will start later this year, and then a placebo-controlled phase 2 study starting in early 2016. I should add that we've been granted orphan drug status, both in Europe and in the US, and that confers a number of benefits. It will help us through the regulatory process potentially, and it will provide us with periods of market exclusivity. I should also add that orphan drugs typically command high pricing currently, and a level is around $200,000 to $400,000 per patient. So even though you've got relatively small populations, you can still generate significant revenues if you can produce an effective treatment. I must acknowledge the support that we have had, both from the DMD community in the development of SMT-C1100, and also from the UK government through a £2.4 million Technology Strategy Board grant that we received in 2013. And that's been instrumental in helping us to advance our programme. I'm now going to move on to discussing our C. difficile antibiotic. And again, before going into that, just a little bit of background on this condition. And infectious diseases have been very topical in recent months. You've heard a lot about it on the news, about the issues with drug resistance, hospital superbugs, of which C. difficile is one. But C. difficile is slightly different. It's not a resistance problem here, but rather it's disease recurrence. And the reason for that is disruption to what we have as our natural gut flora. When our natural gut flora is disrupted, that protective role it plays is removed, and that leaves you highly susceptible to a C. difficile infection. Typically, a patient is then treated with a broad-spectrum antibiotic. That causes more damage to their gut flora, and that leaves them susceptible to further disease recurrence. And a patient will have a 25% risk of having a second outbreak, and by the time they've had their second recurrence, that risk increases to 65%. The issue there is not only for the patient because it's more serious and there's a higher chance of mortality, but of course you're having a knock-on effect on the cost of care within the hospital environment. So this is a really serious problem to address. And what we at Summit have developed is an antibiotic called SNT19969 that has been selectively designed just to target C. diff infection. It is targeted to the site of the infection that's in your GI tract. We've shown it to be highly selective in preclinical work, and we are now currently evaluating this in a phase 2 proof of concept study in North America. There is one piece of data, though, that I'd really like to draw your attention to this morning. And this is from our phase 1 healthy volunteer trial, which we completed in 2013. In this, we showed the antibiotic was safe and well tolerated, which is crucial. But we were also able to have an understanding of what impact we had on the natural gut flora of the volunteers. And what we're showing in this chart is each line is a representation of the natural gut flora bacteria families. And in all but one cases, they were largely unchanged during the dosing regime. So this was 10 days of treatment. And the one exception was total Clostridia, which was reduced to levels below detection by day 5. And this is telling us two things. Firstly, we were highly selective. We were not having a negative impact on this natural gut flora. But secondly, we were also having an antibiotic effect against the family of bacteria of which C. difficile belongs. And this is very encouraging for us as we move into these patient trials that we're now evaluating. So currently we're involved in a phase 2 randomized trial which is being conducted in North America. We're looking to enroll 100 patients in total, and we anticipate reporting data from this study during the second half of 2015. This will be an important milestone for the development of this program. Just briefly on some financials, we are listed here in AIM under the ticker SUM, but we've also now got our Nasdaq listing and trade under the symbol SMMT. Our last reported cash balance was £15 million sterling, but having completed our Nasdaq offering in March 2015, we raised a further $39.3 million US. So we're well funded to take these programs through the next set of clinical milestones. So in summary, we're at a very exciting stage in the company's development. Our strategy for the DMD program is to take that through to market ourselves. We believe there is an exciting commercial opportunity for an organization like us to do so. And we'll have a number of clinical milestones coming up in that program over the next 6 to 12 months. And our C. difficile antibiotic, again, will read out an important clinical milestone during the second half of this year. With that, I'd like to thank you for your attention this morning. We are here, we've got a stand, so if you want to find out further information, then please do visit us today at Master Investor, or get in contact with us outside of the conference as well, where we'll be happy to talk about our work further. So thank you for your attention.